אבל נסתדר. שלום.
Reached your destination.
We have our regular joke. Weinroth was late because he didn't use Waze. Why didn't he use his Waze? He was late. That's our contribution to government. I usually speak at technology conferences. I have a few remarks about the panel. We don't appreciate innovation here in Israel, in the government too. We've been cooperating with the police for a long time. When Obama came, we closed off the routes they needed, and automatically we rerouted people. We work with the government and the police. We cooperate closely with them, and we're implementing this model to the departments of transportation all over the world. We connect with various events where people and local government or federal government, national government can access our system directly. Every user has the same rights that the commissioner of police has. They can input information and impact other people. That's part of the connection we're talking about, how the private and public sectors can cooperate. It's not going to be like it was in the past. It's not going to be through tenders. We see what's happening in the States right now with a tender for health services. On the one hand, it's a breakthrough. They want an internet-based system. On the other hand, the idea that within one day this project can be put in place. That's the odd thing, that they thought that on day one it would be up and running. Everyone from the industry knows things just don't work that way. There's so much that we can say about this, but I can promise you one thing, it will never be like it was in the past. The government and private companies are more and more open. 2.0 and API are all opening now. Give us access and we'll solve the problems. I don't think the government can develop everything on its own. Back to us, we're the startup nation. We spoke about 6-point-something% of the GDP from high-tech 2 years ago. If we were sitting right here, we would be talking about the end of the high-tech era. That was the buzzword 2 years ago. Here in Israel, people aren't good with high-tech, aren't good with big companies. All the big funds were collapsing. The American funds replaced some of them, but the consensus was Israel is not good at building companies that can work in the venture environment. Let me explain to people who don't know about VC funds. The model is based on a very few number of companies with wild successes. That's the economic model. 80-90% can fail. That's part of the innovation. But without those few successes, the model does not work. So look at the 10 or 12 recent years. That was one of our problems. Today, we're saying the opposite. Now we are going to replace Silicon Valley. We're taking over with Waze. We're right up there. It's interesting to look at ourselves, look at our advantages and disadvantages as a startup nation. We can start thinking of ourselves as a separate entity from the US, China, and other places. We have to develop the things that we need here with our limitations. We're in a difficult neighborhood, that's for sure. We can't ignore it, but we have advantages. The solution itself will not be that we can implement things just because they succeeded in the US. A classic example of how we think small scale. My phone can run an application for the entire country. In China, an entrepreneur thinks about 50 million users. Tens of millions, that's what they think in the US. The scale of thought is altogether different from ours. At Waze, when we started off, we decided we would go all the way. We would think large scale. We would compete on a large scale with those outstanding companies. A week ago, a very interesting study was published. These are called unicorn companies. The unicorn is this mythological creature that nobody can ever actually find. It's very rare to find a unicorn. The special thing, that special thing, is worth $1 billion. Software companies, let's look at the past decade. We'll look at software in the US. We looked at 39 such cases. Facebook is the extreme, and we're somewhere closer to the low end. Over this period, people reached that kind of valuation. The average is $3.8 billion, to put things in proportion. Look at the proportion of startups. Unicorns are from 0.0%, 0.07%. It's a tiny fraction. There were 40 in America, companies of that kind, and here in Israel, we opened one. In America, the market is 50 times bigger, so it's more or less logical that we should manufacture one such company. We compare ourselves to Portugal, to England, to those countries. So statistically, we're in a good position, but we don't see ourselves, we don't conceive of ourselves like Portugal. Not that I have anything against Portugal. We think we're a startup nation that is a special nation. If we look at the number of startups opened here in Israel, about 6,000 over the past 10 years, we should have about 5 unicorns. That's our problem. We have the money, we have the talent, we produce many such companies, but we are not able to reach that scale. That's our challenge. With all our limitations, how can we do that? 2 years ago, I remembered at a certain conference, I said that one of the critical conditions is to move part of the company to the US. And one of the venture capitalists there, an Israeli, said that I'm not a Zionist because of what I said, and that everything is possible here in Israel, and I don't understand. I think we have to face reality. Out of those 39 unicorns, 27 were born in the Bay Area, an hour from San Jose and San Francisco, a very special area that offers things that we don't have here, but that aren't offered anywhere else in the world. So when we started off, when you look at what we tried to do, there's the financial aspect, but there's also the ability to make an international brand. Millions of people all over the world open Waze, in Tel Aviv, in LA, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, and get in their car with the same interface, the same UI. They love it. They get home and they help us construct our maps. In case you didn't know, these are community-based maps. People volunteer their time and information to help us construct these maps. And it's like that all over the world. People connect to our brand. And people always thought in Israel, branding is a failure. One of the things that's changed over the past decade is that we have a generation of entrepreneurs who have worked abroad, come back to Israel. They've worked in Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and the biggest global companies. You hear Hebrew there in the big companies, maybe not as frequently as Chinese, but it's like in France and England, even more so. We have people who have done that and made it. Israel is a leader on a global scale, in new media especially, in industrial design, artists, architecture. There's no reason that we shouldn't spearhead innovation of technology. Marketing used to be thought of as something emotional, big money, experience at Harvard. This is now changing to an analytical perspective, the flat perspective. The whole world uses the same iPhone. All the experience we've accumulated here in analyzing large databases from A200, the Army unit, pornography and spam, and that gray area. The common denominator of all of this is huge databases looking for small trends, and that's half the work in producing a product, analyzing trends. And we are a world leader, a black belt, in that there's no reason that we shouldn't be a world leader. If we can harness our talent and innovation, we can do it. Waze is a shining example of the fact that the barriers have been removed. We mainly have mental barriers. We still think of ourselves as small, useless. We don't understand anything about users. That's our main barrier. Battling the preconception that it's us against the entire world, that we're a small country, our fear of going the whole hog. So one step now is coping with a brand, with a product. We should be a world leader. There's no reason not to be. On the other hand, I don't think Instagram could have been born here in Israel. I don't believe in it. There's something cynical here in Israel. If you would tell people in your army reserve duty that you take pictures of food and send it to your buddies, people would laugh at you. There's something cynical. We need to be able to explain things to our mother. She knows how to explain being a doctor and being a lawyer. But pictures of food, we can cope with a real problem that we can quantify. The Waze problem was traffic jams. Everyone understood the problem. That was easy. We could cope with that problem. We did it in a very different way. We were new. We were innovative. That's the second unique point about Israeli startups. Face to face, we can compete with the global giants. We can tackle real problems. When we look at American companies, startups, one of their drawbacks is technology. There are many articles being written now. We talk about going to Mars, and Mark Zuckerberg is doing Snapchat. Everyone is dealing with superficial nonsense. What's Uber and Instagram and Pinterest and all those applications? These are commercial marketing applications. Every kid says, I could make Twitter over a weekend and it wouldn't crash, and he'd be right. Our technological advantages are very significant. We have technological power. We're not afraid of technology. For us, technology is nothing. Yeah, Twitter, I'll build up a Twitter, no problem. But how will you market it? Who will buy it? It's the opposite of the valley, and it complements them. It's very hard there to find good developers. They have to compete with Google and Facebook. If we look at the sweet spot of Israel, my experiences in Waze, it's a combination of a product on a global level, solving a real problem, and technological depth of tier one quality. At Waze, we analyze billions of points. We have to analyze if there's a traffic jam, what to do with the big data. We do all that, all the buzzwords. And we've done it very nicely with a very nice application, a friendly application. The user doesn't even know what's going on. Our innovation is that we use people to create something new together. That's what I like in Israel. That's our unique blend. We have to start understanding that we have things that we can do. We can't produce an Instagram better than the Americans, but Waze is something that we can do. So we're the first unicorn. Weeks was at $700 million. Last time I saw them, there's a whole bunch of companies working behind them, companies that are on the way to being a big company. A week or two ago, Onavo was sold, a consumer company with very deep technology. Facebook is opening a development center here in Israel. Saluto, a very interesting case. There was hardcore technology in the backing there. Here in Israel, we're not just a chip company anymore, not just a security. NSA already showed us that there's no security anymore, but we do have an innovation environment. And that requires thinking big. That's one of the biggest challenges. When you look at startups statistically, the startup genome analyzed hundreds of thousands of startups. One of the important factors is experience. with mentors. Inventors didn't really have an impact. Smart money, stupid money, that didn't really have an outcome. But mentors, involved mentors, that had an impact. If Peter Thiel would have worked with someone else rather than Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook wouldn't have issued an IPO at the values it did. That's the added value that we have today. So many people have experienced this and worked in this environment and can help each other. It's a wonderful experience. I moved to the States 3.5 years ago. I live in the Valley. The tempo there, the experience, it's outside of the U.S. It's so unique. Our challenge now is how to start building bridges. One is mentors. How do we bring more and more people here to Israel? All those Israelis abroad. It's important for them to be abroad, overseas now. 6-point-something% of our GDP is a result of these people who have left Israel. There are people who work at Google or Facebook here or there for 10 years. That's the starting point. That's what we lacked here in the 90s. Now we have these people all over. There's a network. You can speak Hebrew and get to the decision makers in every technological company now. This is a critical network. We didn't go to MIT or Harvard. We don't have the old boys network, but Israel has developing centers. In Seattle, there are so many Israelis. There are many, many Israelis. That's our strength. We have to institutionalize the connection between us and the Bay. We asked what the government can do. I don't want to sound too full of myself, but let's take 20% of the chief scientist's budget and have direct flights between Tel Aviv and San Francisco at reduced rates. We'll produce more innovation, we'll generate more funding here than by doing anything else. Everyone who lives in San Francisco is clapping. The point is, we don't understand. American investors, I've spoken to dozens of them, have said, I will not invest in a company that is one hop away, more than one hop away from where I am. They can get to Beijing in one hop, but they can't come to Israel. This is a very small group of decision makers making decisions to the tune of billions. And people live in a specific place and they don't want to travel distances. So what's happening now is that we're going there. That's one of the problems. We want the opposite model. At Waze, part of what we are doing, we have a office there without Israelis. I was the bridgehead. We have to develop this skill set, develop a company that's separated by a 10-hour time difference. New York is not a solution. There's something there at the Valley we have to develop as a company. We have to develop that skill set. Looking forward, our ability to develop these models of a split company, to think big with the assistance of mentors. Look at these models of companies that became these unicorns. The average age of the entrepreneurs is 34. It's not those 18-year-olds who dropped out of Harvard. Something that was very special at Waze, I joined after Amir and Ehud established the company. Amir was 40, Amir was 30-something. All of our management was late 30s, early 40s. All of our first-generation developers are around 40. They're not all 22-year-olds. When entrepreneurs ask me what they can do to better their prospects, I say, first of all, move to the Bay. Your chances are better there. The second thing is go work at Google or Facebook or Microsoft for 4 years. The experience that you accumulate there is the most important factor, and mentoring is the second most important factor for success. It was an amazing year. We have a wonderful product that we've built with people all over the world. We meet up with people here in Israel, people overseas. Their aim is to make life better for people. We're talking about the internet. If the government opens up, it will draw people in. The internet doesn't make people drop human contact. It strengthens human contact. It makes people want to reach out to each other. Once we bring the government into that, reactions will be staggering. There are barriers here, and people just don't know what to do. We have people helping each other. Part of the global trend that technology enables. So people ask me, how did you know that you have a strong brand? My definition is that when you get a call from a studio in LA and they want a waiver to use Waze in a film, and that's because the lead loves Waze. And then the director wants a waiver to put a joke in the application. That's what we have to strive for. Many people don't know that Waze is an Israeli development. They know that it's the best product, like a prostitute, a Jewish prostitute. That's what people think about. These have to be thought of as the best technologies. You know what I mean. Didn't Ben Gurion say that? He wanted us to be like any other nation. We want to be a brand like any other brand. We want to be used every single day. We won't be Google or Facebook. We're a different kind of nation. Things are done differently here. If we start thinking big, if we start believing in ourselves, if we have the self-confidence and build the models that are right for us, not all the American models are right for us, there's no reason not to have 5, 10, 20 new ways or unicorns. Thank you all very much. You have the challenge.